Hello, and welcome to the Parakeet Challenge Walkthrough. This is a training walkthrough based on a challenge that was released in the 2023 edition of the iCTF. We're going to start looking at this capture the flag challenge, but a challenge is sort of a riddle, is something that needs to be solved. It can be a file. It can be a remote service that need to be exploited. And in this capture the flag, we're going to learn how to analyze Parakeet file. A Parakeet file is similar to a spreadsheet or similar to CSV, a comma separated value file, but is used a lot in big data and in machine learning. So it's relevant to artificial intelligence. It is used because CSV are not very sophisticated as a file type. Parakeet file are more advanced. They can store data more efficiently. So in order to solve this challenge, we will have to understand what a Parakeet file is. So you will need to know Python, and in particular, you will have to install pandas and pyarrow. So you will have to create your own Python environment and use pip install to install these libraries. And you will need a text editor. If you have to go to raw data, we'll see what it is. And of course, a terminal. So let's go and try to start analyzing this file. Well, first of all, you have to go to the challenge. There is an instance of the CTFD daemon that contains all the challenges that are used for training. Go to the Parakeet challenge and click on the link that is associated with this challenge. This will download the Parakeet file on your machine. And then you have to analyze this file. So when you have to analyze a file, trying to find a flag, first of all, you have to understand the structure of the file. And so you want to use programming tools to parse the file and understand its contents. In this particular case, we install pandas and pyarrow, and then we run in a file the code that you see in this slide. You read the file in, and you ask to print the first few lines of the file. And you will see that a few lines will appear that show bird species, where they're located, and so on and so forth. Then you can use more calls to various aspects, various data attributes and function of the object that you just read into memory to find more. So you have to explore how the data is characterized. And this is an example for the Parakeet file, but this is common in challenges. You have to understand what is the type of the file that you are analyzing, and you oftentimes will need libraries to parse the file and understand its contents. Once you understand the structure, you look for weird values. So in this case, you move around, you look at the columns, you look at the contents, and this seems to be a database of bird species and lifespan and location where they are. Nothing really looks suspicious here. So sometimes challenges are solved by finding data where you don't normally see it. And sometimes the data is encoded in some way. A typical way to encode data is base 64 encoding. And so you might need code like the one you see in the slides in order to decode some encoded string. But in looking in this file, we don't see a lot of base 64 encoding data. So sometimes this is useful, sometimes it's not. So look around in this file and try to find out where this hidden data could be. You can pause here, take a minute, try to understand, read, about the Parakeet file system, and then If you don't file anything, it's time to go low level. This means that you want to actually print the bytes that are part of this file. And in some case, you can use something like hex dump. We will see it in a second, that prints actually the content byte by byte of the file. And this option dat uppercase C will print on the side also the string representation of that data. Or if you're interested only in printable strings, which often is what you're looking for, you can use the command strings, which will take any file, even a program, any file whatsoever, and just print all the printable strings in the file. Actually, calling strings on a file, it's a very good way to start analyzing a file. In this case, it was our last step after we tried to actually parse the file and understand what it is. So let's look at the hex dump of this Parakeet .parquet file. And you can see that it starts with the data that we have seen about the gray parrot, the bald eagle, and so on. But after a few pages, and here I remove some of the intermediate content, you can see that there is a creator field that actually has the data iCTF and then the string my parakeet pooped on my parquet. And this obviously is the flag because it's in the flag format, iCTF, curly brace, followed by the string. So in order to solve this challenge, you only had to look at the actual contents of the file. And maybe you should have done this as the first step. But I hope that you learned something by trying to understand what a parquet file is and how to parse it. Well, at this point, of course, you take the string, you submit it to the CTF platform, CTFD, and see if you get points for it. And if it's good, obviously you will if it's correct. And so that doesn't work. It could be that something else is wrong, but it should work because that's actually the flag. So I hope you learned something from this very simple challenge based only on the forensics applied to a specific file. Other challenges might be a lot more complex, but this is a good point, a good way to start. Understand the file format, have the file parsed using some kind of programming, like could be Python, could be any other language that has the libraries that can parse that file. And when everything else fails, you can always do an hexadecimal dump of the actual content, looking for patterns that are interesting or data that is hidden somewhere. Well, good hacking and good luck.